but let's get into this. So just to give a bit of context, I guess, beforehand, because a lot of what remote closing is about is kind of trying to get in touch with people who can open up doors for you, get access to people who can make things move. And a lot of that comes from, sending messages, being genuine, building relationships, and so on. And I think probably almost 2 years ago at this point, I came across a video that Will was on YouTube, and he was just talking about the the development he's gone through over the last few years. And Will was basically probably the first person I sent like a cold DM to be like, "Hey man, you're cool. Like, how do I become friends with you?" Essentially, and and uh, and since then we've met various locations, Montenegro, many others, and if there's ever anything I need in terms of a connect, whether it's an accountant, whether it's someone for a podcast or anything, Will is the most plugged in guy I know in this space, but also the most well respected, which I think is even more impressive. So I'm really excited to have him here. I really just wanted to talk about his story, the networking side of things, how he's managed to create such an epic life. If you do have questions throughout, just throw them into the chat and we'll get to them at the end. But yeah, Will, over to you, sir. Thank you very much.
Good deal. Yes, Lewis, it is recorded currently. Um, and yeah, thank you for the kind words. To give y'all a back up on Cian, he's one of the great individuals I've met, and frankly, much respect for him reaching out. Like, as I'm sure he's told y'all everything in terms of like cold DMs and outreach, like it was a textbook case and really a great um, reaffirmation in terms of when you come from an authentic angle and not, hey, let me sell you something. And I know, right, we're all here, we're all learning, how to sell better and get placed in the roles. But when you come from an authentic, like, I am interested in you and I want to help you, which I think I remember almost word for word, and your DM was like, hey man, I just watched your video. If you're ever in London, please let me know and I'm happy to show you around. Like, that's literally how he opened up genuinely and authentically, and that's the way to go. And just like his message to me that helped start the relationship between the two of us, that's how I want this to be for you all. So yeah, I'm going to pull up some slides too that'll be telling a little bit of my story and background so you guys have even more context. But please feel free to, like Cian said, put your questions in the chat, or even, like I said, Cian, you can feel free to interrupt me if you want to hit a certain part more and more, or it might be useful to apply, directly to any of you here listening to the talk. So let me just make sure. We didn't check this, but I think it should be good in terms of sharing my screen. Let's just make sure. Okay, yeah, thanks again. So yeah, everybody can see this?
Yeah,
just give me a
okay.
nod. Okay, cool, thanks. So I'm just gonna slide you guys out of the way so I can see a couple. But yeah, so I just call this a curated life because that's where I'm at in terms of the way I live. I've intentionally designed the life that I live, the work that I do, and the people I interact with, and that is a possibility, and also I believe something that we all not only can have but should have. So, like I said, this is a little background on my journey. Let me just click in. So these are, kind of funny pictures and just an interesting thing. Possibly like several of you, if not many of you, I went to university in the U.S., but I played basketball in, here in the States. I'm not sure the overall breakdown. I assume mostly you all are Euro, but anyways, I played basketball in the States. That was really all I knew. I knew school and doing well on the academic side and playing basketball. And so that was my life. I was a quote unquote high achiever there where, I want to be great on the court. And also, I did well in terms of grades because that's what I thought I was supposed to do. I decided not to play basketball in school because I realized that I could travel more quickly with my brain and from the entrepreneurial side, where basically one of the biggest gaps that I found in my life was all I did previously, like I said, was basketball and school. And then all of a sudden I just got rid of this basketball schedule where I was the type of kid who was doing like, Kobe was my, how should I say, mentor and aspiration there. And so I was doing the 5:30 a.m. workouts, and I took that to college and led like a breakfast club workout, and really was enjoying life there. I helped build a business fraternity, which is, if you see like Wolf of Wall Street, that's like the normal American fraternity, but this was like actually geared for success with a bit more work hard and some play hard in there too. But I have this whole COVID thing mentioned because many of you, like many of you probably, COVID was a huge pattern interrupt to my life where I was at my sophomore year. So I would have been, this is like right around the age of 21. And I was at what I had considered at that point the peak of my life. I had an incredible group of friends. I was in the best shape of my life. Things were on the up and up. I was learning a ton. And then bang, like it says here, COVID happened, life on hold. And throughout that process, I basically just rode the worst slip and slide, or worst slide in general down life. I was at like, oh, I should have converted this to kgs. I was at like 93 kgs and got all the way to maybe almost that's like 110 kgs. So I mean, you can see here like this is a pretty fat ass picture, frankly. So got to a point where like I was super depressed. I didn't want to move. I was stuck in this really tiny rural hometown of mine. And then actually things continued to quote unquote get worse there where family is a huge deal to me. And I have a small family in the first place, but both of my grandmothers actually passed from COVID in December 2020 in the first week of January. And so that already took a negative slope down even farther where, long story short, I have like my parents calling me and texting me like, Will, I'm an orphan now, and my grandfather loses his wife of 50 years. And so really I felt it was still the right thing to do. I stepped up in my family as being the rock for all of them, but failed to deal with any of the loss myself, which resulted in aggressive college drinking. This is like actually what I regard as one of the worst days where every time I would drink because I never dealt with it, I was blacking out, all these kind of things, and continued to offend my friends and really just go down a super negative slope. Where eventually I got to the point that I call it 3 rounds in the ground, where I was going to kill myself. You know, in the U.S. here, we have the availability of weapons, and so I did that, and I almost did. And so that was kind of my low point. But throughout that process, and even throughout college before everything happened, I realized that college or uni may not be as applicable as it's said to be. And so what I would do was teach myself more or less courses. Like, as I understand, you are all here with sales and working with Cian and the other guys. And so one of those courses was on the matter of, and really a course of life was on the matter of communication and understanding sociological patterns and more, as well as social media marketing. And I used those skills actually to where I got to the point that Cian and I met through a community. We met through YouTube outreach, basically. But the reason we met was I was in a community myself that I had joined and found as a result of teaching myself, like I said, these lessons in subject areas. And so we'll forward so you don't have to look at the negative anymore. And just as a result of that, like, you know, the previous one was more or less absolute negativity, death, etc. Right. And now if somebody asks me what do I do, I build and curate community connection, incredible experiences globally. This is where we really get into the networking side. And so to speed up to that process of where I'm talking about, where Cian and I met, I was 22 years old, a broke uni student in his final year. And I realized that there's this whole remote or online world out there through joining a community myself, right? And when I realized I was a student on track to go into banking, I wanted to travel. So I was going to work. I literally had a job set up in South America to work at a wealth bank. And when I realized there was this whole online opportunity where I could travel, visit my family, and still make, you know, very nice sums of money, I said, okay, screw all that traditional path, and invested all my time, skipped 8 weeks worth of courses, in meeting as many people in this online world as I can, and as well as learning as much as about the area, right? In terms of all the business opportunities, everything that went down. And so that's, like I said, where we really, really hit the networking head, in terms of I was getting on calls even before I worked in a sales role, like many of you either are preparing to do or are right now. I was still getting on calls and calls and calls daily, like where I would have a gap for lunch and a gap for the gym and a gap for dinner, but otherwise most of my day was calls. And so, like I said, I know some of you may have less time, some of you may have about the same amount of time. I was a broke college student or uni student, and I thought, what do I have to offer these people? And at that point, yes, there were subject matters that I learned throughout my life, and as I'm sure you all have your own expertise. The things that I did have on meditation and reprogramming the mind from those kind of depressive points that I talked about before. But truthfully, the most valuable thing that I could do when I was talking to people who are more successful than me was to offer them my own expertise, and especially the value of connection. Right. And so that's where we really get into everything we're talking about now. And that's important. And these slides here, you see going to Monkey Forest in Bali with my best friends, leading a trip there. This was actually in Ireland. Wait, no, I'm still going to say the wrong thing. Cian can
You're
let me know.
good. Clip some more.
I was right. Okay, never mind. I was right. I brought my brother with me in Europe. You can see here for 2 months, and we were in Ireland. We were all over. I ran events in 200-year-old villas in Positano. It cost like $22,000 to grab the villa for 4 days. I've dirt biked with my best friends on volcanoes, right? And all that came initially from the point of networking and connection. And so, like I said, what I realized was the true value I could offer was by helping others solve problems, by connecting one person with a problem to the solution. And so through this whole process, and granted, right, that's your whole sales process too, of like, you're working with the client, you're looking to see, okay, is this a solution that will help them? And then you connect them with the solution through, right, that sales process. And so that's frankly what I was doing. And I saw the world not through, points on a graph or what I could get out of it, but really what I could do for others. And that's where the value was massive. So, for example, even though Cian wasn't originally part of that community, when he reached out to me, okay, I knew that there was a reason this guy had reached out, because he was interested in everything. And so I was like, hey man, like, you're in London. And I even knew to a point, like we'll touch on this a little bit later, that I wanted to be in London. So it's like, okay, this guy is already offering me help for something that I'd like. Let me see how I can help him, because I am interested in that. And so we get on a call, and he is frankly interested in this whole online community, the prospect of traveling and meeting other guys who were like-minded individuals. And so that was where I connected into that same community that I originally joined myself, but then eventually got to the point where I helped grow it from around 125 members to 500 in less than a year, right? And I now have my own community based on the same thing. But it was that matter of, okay, this guy might have 8 figures in terms of like overall net worth, but he's somebody who needs help with meditation. Let me help him. This guy is doing really well on the business side of things, but has a great interest in biohacking and traveling. Okay, here's this other guy, Philippe, who also is successful, but also cares about all those things. Let me put them together. And when you connect, we're talking here, the word used, and I say it all the time, is asymmetric returns. Because though you may not be directly compensated like you might be for a sales close, a connection in that way, these returns can be even more immensely valuable for people. Like, think about the easy example I've heard is when people talk about marriage. If you introduced a friend to his future wife or her future husband, how grateful forever for you would they be, as long as things continue to go well, God willing. Right. And that's the true return that you're getting here, and really the power of it. And so, like I said, that's what has allowed me to do all of this, to go from small town Ohio that you've probably only seen memes about, right, to all around the world. And so let me just move. Hello. There we go. The path that I took personally is to build you and your presence intentionally. And what I mean by that is to get yourself to a point where you can understand basically communicative process. Okay, this is what like and be able to investigate and understand this is what this person is about. These are the things they value. This is what they're looking to get out of life and where they're looking to go in terms of the vision thing. And you build you to a point where no matter what stage of life you're in terms of maybe you're just starting out in a brokey, more or less like I was, but you are as much of the whole person in terms of you understand what you're going through, what you want your vision to be, and just who you are and how you can help others intentionally, then you are able to truly reap the rewards of every single interaction. And so that should be really the first point, is to build you and your presence. And what I mean by presence there is presence not only in this conversation that we're having right now, or a one-on-one conversation, but overall, also your presence online. And so we'll talk about what I call the life resume in a little bit, and that's the point. Also that Cian and I have really connected on as we both seen the benefits from, and I'm guessing he may have already told you about the importance there. So once you've built the presence, both within you and online in terms of social media, especially, I'm not sure what the dynamic is in terms of how many of you may be working corporate remote or how many of you may be working remote in terms of online business, but either way, it's helpful. And so then you build those digital relationships through people. And that's where we're talking about networking calls, and really more intention is the huge word to focus on here. Is it's not just, oh, I want to meet a bunch of people. When you come at it from a point of intention, it's like, okay, for me, I knew I wanted to travel to London. Let's connect more with Cian and learn about London, learn about how I can help him. So when I'm there, perhaps he can assist me in some way. And frankly, right, Cian, that came to play literally back in April of this year. And so in the path, right, it's I'm not sucking what I can out of the relationships. It's helping them as much as possible. And so you're building these digital relationships to then bring those relationships from digital to in person. And you can talk to somebody every day and have a great relationship, but not until you've really brought them in person and you've eliminated this invisible wall of the screen. Do things really get awesome and super rewarding, which you do, and Cian and I have done before. And so that's where you're accomplishing intentional travel in terms of places you both want to go or things you want to do. And so really that's what I recommend. And then meeting in person, and that can be online and totally in person, ideally, then leads to you forming your community in terms of, okay, these are my best friends. These are people I want to travel with. That whole, the 5 people you surround yourself with are those, or eventually you become, or the 4 successful individuals that you surround yourself with, the 5th you become. That is completely true. And so with this great power of the internet and the online world, you have the choice to intentionally create your own community around what your vision is for you in the future. And so then you get to a life and travel with your people. And I capitalize your people because you don't have to be surrounded by the people that are just like, okay, or have somewhat of alignment with you. No, you can literally be surrounded with people who are totally in line with you. Like that's something I have in my future, is I will build and expand the community that I have to bring it in person, where I am in accordance with my vision. We are traveling, raising family, and then just having international community together. And I've done that already. And so that's the path. And really, this is what I call the life resume. You may have heard it before, but
Please pay attention here, everyone. Sorry, because this shit changed my life. A lot of people here will, just to give context, not a lot, but a few people here are not on Instagram. Okay, in remote sales, there's so many different ways to find a role, whether it's through a network, meeting people in person, LinkedIn, Instagram, and so on. But guys, from a lifestyle perspective and like just meeting people who are on the level that you want to be at, like people way ahead of you, especially, this has changed my life. And if anyone has seen my Instagram 3 years ago versus now, you'll see where that inspiration came from. And it's opened up a lot of doors, primarily down to Will. So please, this is golden.
Cheers for that, Cian. And so, yeah, I call it the life resume because I'm sure many of you are on LinkedIn, and I know that's also a focus for you all. And so you've probably turned in a resume, you learned about it in uni or even, school just in general. And so the difference with that kind of resume is that just covers one dimension of your life, right? It's your job and your work experience, as well as maybe some soft skills, right? Depending on what you highlight. But Instagram, or even Twitter also, but I think Instagram is the number one. Instagram is the life resume where you see here, don't forget your dimensions. What I mean by that is you can highlight every part of your life in a meaningful way to give the really unlimited opportunity for people to connect with you. Because if somebody just looks at your resume, they might see, oh, okay, this guy has worked at this, this guy worked at Google, or this guy worked with Gary Vee, or this guy worked, with Cian at whatever opportunity. I know Cian, or, oh, Google, that's a good company, right? But with all the possibilities of Instagram, you can see, okay, this guy's traveled to all these countries. He's in where I want to go, or he's even visited my hometown and I had no idea. That's a point of connection. Those are 2 points of connection. He works out. Okay, that's another point of connection. Maybe he does the same style of workout. He's a CrossFitter or something along those lines. He might like to run. Using things like you can see here, story highlights. You can see, okay, these are his personal beliefs. Oh, we both agree on this point, right? Or whatever else. You can demonstrate and I'll elaborate on what that means your whole life and offer, like I said, unlimited points of connection, which is what you want to do because frankly, this is a hiring process for your life. So to go first here on the point of demonstration means a lot of people think, oh, they can just post a picture and everybody understands what's going on, which is frankly a failure by the majority to really understand social dynamics. And so what I mean by demonstrate is you want to show exactly what you're doing or show exactly what you want people to get out of something and what you want them to think. And what I mean by that really in an example sense is I used to do a ton of what were called Instagram reviews, and Cian, I'm happy to even do that if somebody wants to get flamed on a Q&A portion. But one of the most interesting things I saw ever was, you may be familiar, like I said, with American fraternities or not, but fraternities is basically just party culture in the US. And so this guy had gone with his wealthy fraternity to Scorpios, which is like one of the most famous clubs in the world, in Mykonos, and he took a picture out front of Scorpios with no signage whatsoever in front of a concrete wall and tagged the photo. I don't know what Lyndon's doing. Okay, she's back. And tagged the photo of Scorpios. But it's like that's an absolute failure at demonstrating because you want people to have, without a shred of a doubt and without even needing to investigate to see, okay, this is a demonstration. This is what I do. This is where I am. This is what I am. So a proper example for that case would have been, okay, a fun, candid picture at Scorpios where if anybody's ever been there or even seen a picture on Instagram, it's recognizable. And so that's what I mean by that. Like, and so you see here of like some of mine is, okay, if you click on the people's profiles tagged in this account, they're well known or they also have a brand, or these are the streets of Lisbon. There's other streets, but you can easily tell like, okay, cool, this is a beautiful city. And then here, this is actually from the trip that Cian and I were together in Montenegro, and this is from I think a little while ago. I took this screenshot, but anyways, you can see, okay, he's in cool tropical areas. He's traveling. And two, right? If you click on these, you can see, oh, his friends are also well-to-do. They're also traveling because you can look there. Same thing in this process. Oh, he's going to cool dinners in beautiful areas. He appreciates nature. This one I'm riding a motorcycle on. I like adventure, right? All these different things that you can highlight. And the carousel is incredibly powerful. Where you have the carousel, you have stories, and you can share, like I said, all these dimensions. But the whole reason we're doing this is demonstrating, and the point of a good resume, right, is to leave little to the mind in terms of like actually thinking about like, oh, like, what does this guy do? No, you want to give them the full idea of who you are, what you do, what you're about. Because this whole process is every single time somebody comes on your page, it's an opportunity, right? You want to be someone, whether that be for work, for friendship, for a relationship, or more, that you would hire as well, because that's what you're going to attract. What you demonstrate is what you will attract in the level of the person that you will be able to deal with increasingly so. And so in this case, I have personal brand always wins. And so that's where the thing that has allowed me to, I guess, build this respected understanding amongst my peers is because I value authenticity and integrity to the extreme, or to really the level that I think it should be for everyone, where this is not a fake life. I am posting according to what I believe and what I love. And that's really the ultimate thing. If you are interested in chess or interested in aquariums, I am not whatsoever ever going to tell you to not share that, because your personal brand will always win. And people will actually even like you more for being more authentic for that sake. Like, frankly, I tried to think of things that might not be mainstream loved, but if you're someone who's outspoken and very good at chess, or you have aquariums with some really cool fish, that'll make me like you more, because now I have more points of interaction, a deeper understanding of you, and that's really what everyone is craving. And the whole reason we demonstrate, so people don't have to think extra hard or assume or investigate. And so that's why that is absolutely vital to be having this. And I think I could tell from mutuals that some of you may have followed me off an announcement or off of the story that these guys posted today. And for just as like a big rule, I might even have it on the next slide, a big rule is take those accounts off of private, for goodness sake. Because I'm not going to follow somebody who is just like rando, unless, maybe I see they're followed by every single, celebrity known to man. I'll be like, okay, what's about this guy? But if you're somebody who's on private and you want to improve your life, you are massively limiting that potential for development by having it on private. So that's bang right off one thing to know. And then this is an overall path of networking. And I'm actually going to highlight here is I don't really like the word networking, because networking, in my understanding of it, the word today, the connotation is, okay, I'm going to network to get as much and eke as much value as I can out of everybody that I meet. When in fact, the thing that really works in what I did, and it's the proof is in the pudding there, is seek to build meaningful relationships and build relationships with people and give as much value as you can, right? Like be the listener. Maybe you have goals of a conversation and you want to be rewarded or accomplish a goal. But the way to do that is to actually listen to them, right? And I'm sure I wouldn't be surprised if Cian and the guys have mentioned it. Like, read How to Win Friends and Influence People. And this comes straight from that. Like, this is the way. And then connect your life. A lot of people hesitate, and I was the same way, especially in uni, hesitate to connect areas of their life that might be different. Like, the best meme I've seen on this is where people they have like their birthday party, and it's like a bunch of like snack food. So there's like animal crackers, there's all sorts of like different candies representative of animals or whatever. And this has now become a mishmash of an explanation. But the analogy is there's just a ton of different people all together at a person's birthday party. And it's like society will present it to you, the meme presents it like, oh, this is a weird thing. But I will tell you the exact opposite, because the more I connect my life and the more I connect cool and great people, the better my life gets. And the more, frankly, it looks like and feels like a movie. So that's another point before we even get into like the process of doing it with Instagram. And like I said, serve others. I'm looking for immediately, like even on this call when we get to Q&A, like I'm eager to get to the Q&A because I know I can directly help you all more, right? And that's what I'm seeking for on every single call. It's the same thing you should be seeking with every sales call or every interview you might have. So I'll run through this pretty quick and you guys can ask whatever questions you have. It's post to start, and in Cian's Instagram, like I think Cian, you probably have most of all your posts up and you can see the progression where you started with maybe a post that just had one photo and then you progressed to 2 photos and then maybe 3 in a slide and then all the way into full carousels and stories and forming highlight banks more.
Yeah,
And
and
so you guys figured,
just with this, sorry guys, when I first heard of this, I was like, fuck, this all sounds so vain. Like I need to get a post here, a post there, and do this and walk with the guys while someone takes a candid. And in the beginning, it all felt like, what am I doing here? But I I can't stress the number of doors that it has opened for me. And Will mentioned, like, this isn't just with regards to sales. Like, it's friendships, relationships, it's everything. And getting over that initial hurdle of, oh, I don't want to be perceived as someone who's like trying to show off. And like, I'm from Ireland. Anybody from Ireland not familiar with the online space is probably like, what the fuck is Cian doing? Like, who does he think he is? But that's fine. That's probably an indication I'm not going to be too connected with them anyway. Um, so I just want to say, my point being, if anybody here is like, God, this all sounds a bit OTT, over the top, it's not. It couldn't be further from it, and I've experienced it. Will has, as on top of the hundreds of people that he's helped as well.
yeah, thanks for that explanation too. And so, yeah, that's the process. I even have a YouTube video that's like, I think like an hour and a half long on Instagram. So, I can show that or we can link that. So I won't go super in depth in terms of carousels and stories, but I actually break down that process. And then I want to highlight here cold DMs. We talked about it in the beginning, and I'm sure Cian's done a great job in terms of explaining how to reach out to businesses. But there is a proper way and a high ROI way to actually message and meet new people. And Cian followed that process when he first reached out to me, which is, okay, actually be interested in the person, give them a compliment, and give them a point of interaction. You don't want to hit somebody with a paragraph long, unless you're thanking them or something along those lines, paragraph long question that's going to take a lot of time out of their life to connect with them. Because it's like, okay, I get not quite hundreds of DMs a day, but my DMs are flooded quite frequently, right? And so you want to optimize your opportunity for a response from me. So Cian's message, like I said, was a perfect example. It was, hey, Will, I watched this video. I really appreciated what you have to say. If you're ever in London, please let me know. And it was genuine, authentic, and a compliment. And you don't have to, get right to the handshake of exchange value right away. But this is a thing that happens over time. So all you really want to do is start a relationship with a message, and that can progress depending on where you are, especially with these notes. And these are like what I would call, frankly, like social qualifications. Yes, this might seem a bit Machiavellian or like, um, preparing for like to address human psychology, but it works and it's true. And like Cian was saying, we both reap the incredible benefits. And these are things that will actually help accelerate your growth. So one thing to be understandable about is mutuals. For any of you, like for anyone who hasn't established an Instagram relationship or Instagram connection with Cian, and you followed me, honestly, especially if you're private, I think less of you in terms of Instagram, because I don't see every single mutual person that we have is like an endorsement for that person. And so, not that I think less of you as in like you're a horrible person, but I have less of a desire to connect with you because of that. So mutuals can be a powerful thing. If, for example, I was even a private account and you all saw that I was followed by, the King of England and Oprah Winfrey and Dwayne The Rock Johnson and the President of the U.S., right? It would be like, who in the world is this guy? And that's really the power of mutuals. And so with whatever area you might want to infiltrate or be a part of, that's actually something that can really help you, whether you have 100 followers or whether you have 100,000 followers. Perceived value and social proof are going to be the whole reason really we focus on demonstrating things on Instagram and social media. Because that's a way to instantly qualify yourself for a relationship or a connection. And the way you can actually manipulate your life and your social media to better represent you that way. Because if you're someone who's a millionaire, right, and you have absolutely no friends, but you can't tell they're at least successful by your Instagram, that is going to massively lower your connectivity strength, shall we say. So we want to highlight things that are not flexing all the time, subtle flex really at most, but highlight, oh, okay, this guy must be at least somewhat successful because I can see that he's been to XYZ countries, right? Okay, you have to have a little bit of financial freedom to do something like that. Oh, this guy is in pictures with people who have massive brands that I might know. Okay, if they respect him, they're taking photos with him, he has to be at least, a relatively good guy or someone maybe I should respect and get to know too, because these guys are hanging out with him, right? And then social proof is really that same thing, where you're demonstrating your capability in life through that, whether that be for financial side of things in terms of like maybe you're taking trips or maybe in a picture somebody can see you're wearing a nice watch and you're not like, oh, look, this is literally a Seiko and maybe Cian will flame me. Not really. But anyways, you should get my point there. And so, like I said, just to reiterate, the whole point of this, and the way that I found it to be the highest ROI, is to build relationships, right? And building a brand is incredibly helpful as well. But especially for the stage, as I would understand, you can build a relationship and, like I said, be a broke university student, right? And so that's the whole point here.
And just this all applies as well, guys, to LinkedIn. Just when we're connecting with, say, business owners, recruiters, and we're revamping the how to land roles module at the moment. We're really expanding it out, and what I literally recorded today is all about perception on LinkedIn and making yourself stand out. So, we don't all have to go posting lifestyle photos on LinkedIn, but when it comes to little things which are easily achievable, such as like building out your recommendation stack at the bottom of your profile. So when a recruiter lands on you and you see all of this social proof of other people vouching for you, it's going to put you to the top of the stack in terms of who is at least perceived to be the right person for the job. So just bear in mind, obviously, all of this is transferable to every platform, really, not just Instagram.
Yeah, and maybe that's even something I should include. Like I was on LinkedIn building connections because Gary Vee told me to way before I even discovered and learned Instagram. Like if you look me up on LinkedIn, I think I have like almost 4,000 connections or something like that. Because I was a uni student just sharing literally exactly what you said, sharing exactly what I just talked about. Like I was talking about the things I was sharing, the lessons I was learning. I was demonstrating parts of my personality that may have been atypical for the business world and more. So obviously, like I said, I'm in complete agreement there. And then I'll just go over this. The goal for, especially the Instagram side, is digital to real world, or perhaps on LinkedIn it would be digital to work, right? Digital to actual like tangible connection. Um, so here, like trips and events with people you started building relationships with are a great way to do that. The process, I say, is new experiences, getting outside of comfort zones, and even pain are the fast tracks to deep connection. And the reason I bring up pain is if you ever played a sport, almost always in the beginnings of a team, they have you do conditioning or tough things. Not only is that good and healthy for your performance within the sport, right? But also it helps build the team even more. And so you have that same thing can be accomplished through working out as a team or through, doing a tough thing in an adventure or whatever. And so the point that I will iterate here and that will help you go further in life and within and outside of work is to do it in alignment with you. There's almost never a need to go do something you truly aren't interested in. And what I mean by that is do truly what you feel called to do. And honestly, most of you are probably in this and are working with Cian and the other guys specifically because, you're seeking more alignment. And so that's something I always want to reaffirm. And this, frankly, we can skip over here quick. Expanding community, it applies in the work realm and the friendship realm. Great ways to do that are by hosting your own events. So if you're in London, you can host a dinner and have guys really take care of everyone. Something that I do is just like I connect people on Instagram or wherever else. I over deliver and under promise, and I also make sure their experience is the top because that's really what will ultimately reward you as well the most. Is if somebody comes to a dinner party, I'm saying, "Oh, Cian, you should meet this guy because you have these two things in common." So there's no delay in terms of like, "Oh, what am I doing here? Who do I talk to?" That awkward moment. I'm going to eliminate those in everything you do, and that's great. And so, yeah, dinner party, quick trips, adventure, simple gatherings, they're the fast track to do that. And yeah, for travel, this is intentionality, just like everything else. Seek what you're really looking for. What do you want to do? And that's where Cian and I actually, I remember when we met in person, we had a conversation specifically about this, where maybe it's changed a little bit. I forget about our conversation when we were in London, but Cian was like, "Yeah, Will, like I'm doing this, and I want to continue within a sales role, or in the entrepreneurship side, to where I can have maybe a home in Spain or something along those lines, right? Versus like super rapid aggressive travel." And as far as I've seen, he's done that all the way through. And so it's important to do that. And so this is just, you can have your goal, whether that be hotels or Airbnbs, then you can connect them to getting the Airbnbs off of the app, so you get more. You save money. You can base up in different places, work in Spain for a couple of months or whatever, or connect trips, and then you can do whatever, short term, long term, or for life. And that's a little bit uncompassed, but let's go to Q&A. I'll stop the share.
Okay. Thank you for that, Will. I have a couple of questions myself, but I'll put it out to the floor first. Ryan, I saw you had your hand up there.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks for making the connection, Cian. Very nice to meet you, Will. Appreciate you sharing your story. It's very inspirational. I guess question I have based off all of that is you've built all these connections over the years. I'm sure there's hundreds, if not thousands. Have a system for managing all of them.
So that's a great point. And frankly, the answer is yes and no. When I tell people about, like, this is literally something I would say I have like a God-given gift for, frankly. But there are ways that you can do this. And, you've all are probably familiar with the traditional Rolodex and things along those lines. And so something simple can be built by that, depending on whether you're connecting on LinkedIn or Instagram or whatever. And what I do in my head is the same thing I've laid out on like a Google sheet or an Excel spreadsheet or whatever else you can do the same thing is I get, and I do it in an organic way because I've done it for so long. But for example, if you and I were to connect, my questions to you would really progress in this order or within a natural flow of, okay, obviously I already know your name. Where are you from? What do you do? What are your goals? And I love to cover, because this is where everyone wants to talk about what they're passionate about and what they're interested in, what they want to have in your future. So I love to cover multiple dimensions or facets rather of goals. So it's like the questions I would ask guys, especially when I was initially connecting all, is like, okay, like fitness, travel, material. And through that, you can oftentimes find what people are the most passionate about. So for example, Cian and I, when we last talked in London, he was just acquiring some new watches. And that was something that I could easily tell that he had a more vested interest in. And so that's where it's like, okay, let's make the conversation go that way. But the point of me kind of breaking down these different subjects is that's really the best way. If like you can have, I don't even have a notepad next to me. I've been writing on business cards. Is you can have like a little notepad next to you and make those notes during the conversation or right after you get off the call with somebody, and then input them quickly into a spreadsheet that you have built out that highlights those different details. So right then, when you talk to, I'm just going to call out somebody's name. When you talk to Danielle in one day, and a week later you talk to David, you can go back to that Excel spreadsheet and see, oh, okay, they're both going to be, and I would ask people like, what are their travel plans? And it was like, okay, they both have just told me they're going to be in Dubai in December. All right, they're both going to be there at the same time. It's only natural that I should connect them. Right. And so it's an organized format that way. But for whatever reason, my brain also tends to work that way. And in a lot of these scenarios, success loves speed, meaning if it pops in your head, I do the connection right away.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fascinating stuff. I got a lot of value from that, so thank you.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Any other questions, guys? I'll jump in and someone can raise their hand in the meantime. From a sales perspective, Will, you're very modest with not mentioning who you actually are connected with, who you could access, things like this. when it comes to certain individuals, they have huge brands online who you are connected with. In hindsight, if you were someone who had sales experience, who has a lot to offer in terms of closing, but doesn't have much of a connection base yet, what would you do in order to peel back the layers and kind of get closer to these influential individuals so that you could potentially one day sell for them? Whether it's a Belmar, a Colin Yurson, whoever it is, all of these guys have high ticket offers. If I want to sell for them, what would the first kind of port of call be, in your opinion, for a closer?
So maybe not exactly the first, but I'm going to say what would be the most impactful first is this is the pay play world. And so if you want to work for somebody, want to work with somebody eventually, the easiest way to start to build a relationship with them is to support them in some ways, to buy a product. And so frankly, I've just because like, even if I didn't give a care whatsoever about somebody's product, I've paid thousands of dollars because I knew the relationship would be helpful. And that was somebody I would build a relationship with. Right. Because I see the value in that. And so that's really, without a doubt, the most impactful measure to take. But otherwise, what I would do is seek to serve and give them value in any way you desire. Like a recent example, and frankly, I already knew the guy. Do you know? Just nod your head if any of you know Sobra. If you know who Sobra is. Okay, so big shout out to Caleb. Sobra is a guy. He has like maybe 100, maybe a couple 100,000 followers on YouTube and not YouTube, on Instagram and across other platforms in the online world. And so though I had actually met him at a mastermind previously, and kind of started the formation of a relationship there, I noticed he was for a while, like even I maybe done this for like the past year. He was traveling all over. And because he already knew me just a little bit, he doesn't follow me. He doesn't even still follow me. What I did there was every once in a while, he would even also ask for a recommendation for a place to travel to. And so I would always, if I saw he was in a new city, because one of my resources, I have a guide to the world of locations all around the world, of places to visit, restaurants to eat at, activities, all this kind of thing. If I saw he was in a new place, I would just automatically send that to him. And he was appreciative every single time. And soon enough, after a couple different times of doing that, he would just come to me and ask for these recommendations, right? And then it got to the point where a little bit after that, because just like me and many others, I mean, his brand is even bigger than mine in terms of numbers. So like those are blown up DMs. He was like, hey, bro, just text me, right? And so all of a sudden, even though the guy doesn't follow me, I have his direct line and phone number and point of contact. Where yes, there are certain rules that you don't want to break and ask somebody right away, but I don't care if somebody follows me if I have their personal phone number, right? And so that's really one way it works. And so I would seek to add value however you can. And once again, just like that DM process where you don't need to send paragraphs right away, it can be as simple as liking it, maybe if their account with millions of followers, it's harder to notice a like on a story. But if there's somebody who like, even if you're somebody like me, if you like every single story I have, I will notice you, right? And I would say that can be even common up to 100,000 followers or less, because eventually they'll notice it and like your like may get to the top because you're someone who does it. Also, providing meaningful comments and meaningful feedback when they look for it. Those are great ways to serve people, especially when done in an authentic and genuine way. Right. And so that may not always be the fast route. Like I said, pay to play is definitely, in my opinion, the way to go. But those are great ways to start and incrementally build relationships.
Sweet. Thank you. Caleb?
And actually, sorry,
You're good.
to add there, especially if you're looking for somebody in the online space, a pretty great cheat code to do is to go to different platforms as well, because a person may be huge on one platform, but starting out on another. And so an example of this is, you may not have seen this at all, but I have a friend named Rocky. And Rocky on Twitter, when he first started, had gotten to a point where he had like 40,000 followers. and I loved what he posted. I wanted to support him. I more or less just wanted to be associated with him and have him more or less as a friend. And so I checked him out on Instagram, where when we first connected, he had just a couple hundred followers, or maybe even it might have been like a low thousands. And so I interacted with him immediately there, where I had a bit stronger of a presence, and I knew I had a better chance of him seeing my messages. And now I don't maybe a year later, as a result of that, like we have a great connection. He just published a magazine, and one of my photos was the cover of the magazine. But my point is, he now has 100,000 followers on Instagram. He's even bigger on Instagram than he was on Twitter. But I have that relationship because that was the kind of cheat code that I took there, provided value to him. So yeah, anyways, Caleb.
Fantastic. Hey, thank you for coming in, providing some value. I really appreciate that. And I like that hat a lot too, because that's the truth right there. So, question for you though, like as far as like your social media is obviously like authenticity, kind of like sharing your life and like what you're actually about is something that been feeling more called to do recently. But what would be like action steps for somebody kind of just kind of starting their social medias? I didn't really do too much of that in the past just because I didn't really feel called to. But I guess like what's the actions for like growing your followers and like your network and your social media presence? Like what do you feel like is like the starting place?
Yeah, so frankly, it's to follow people that, fit your vision. Follow people that you are aligned with, that you want to either have a life like, or you value what they say and what they do. And then also spread your own in terms of your own posts and your own value. When I first started this, I was posting 3 stories a day, and that's what I generally recommend. And like I said, I'll send that video or even link that video in the chat here. I have like the hour and a half explanation for this question, but it's post on your story, and it was 3 times a day. And what that consisted of, and this was once again at a broke point of life, it was one scene from my daily life. So that could be the gym, or that could be maybe I, go out to a nice restaurant, or, an aesthetic area of the city. It was something that I believed or was aligned with. So it might have been maybe like a Jordan Peterson quote. Like you can literally go back through my profile highlights. I've left them up there and see where I posted like Jordan Peterson quotes, or like shared and commented on a post that I agreed with, right? And the other thing could be like just an overall interest, or perhaps something aesthetic, like I said, like going to a nice area of your city, or a travel video from somewhere you want to go, right? And what that's going to do is attract those who are also interested in the same thing and resonate with the same thing. Like I was very, very surprised, especially when I first started doing this, by like the people who I knew in university at that time, who I had no idea were interested in some of the same things. And I built even better relationships because of sharing. And so that's frankly where I start. There is the stories, and then you can work towards posts, and you can work towards other things, because the goal is to share more of you, because that's when people become more invested, right? You can build a connection and build a relationship by sharing something that people have shared interest in, but the real way to traction is to also to become someone that people want to connect with. So look at those people that you're following and do your own version of what they're sharing, and you can see does well.
Okay, so I'm hearing you correctly, kind of like starting the stories, like building as you're progressing, and then like the more solidified it gets, you can begin to like have posts sharing the lifestyle kind of like from ground up, essentially from stories into posts.
100%. And really the thing to think about this also, I love this quote is, and I remember the first part, but not the other parts. Or maybe a couple. It's the quote I've seen is, a bodybuilder or a super jacked athlete will never judge you if you're fat and starting in the gym, right? Just like an entrepreneur will never judge you if you're starting a business, because they've all been at that same route. It's the same thing here. And so never let the opinion of someone who you actually don't want to be like stop you. Like I remember when I was starting, I had my friends who were like, who's this? What's this new version of Will? What's this rebel Will? And frankly, like my answer was direct and rang exactly true, was, oh, this is actually the real Will that I just haven't been sharing because of whatever these fears or limiting beliefs and whatnot. And the only reason people give you resistance is because they're resistant to change themselves. And so it's not even that they might hate you or might be, dislike this new you. It's just because they want that same level of comfort and lack of change. Because shortly after, the people just found that they enjoyed more of me and that I was, embracing that.
Cool. Thank you, man.
Yeah.
We'll just go with Majid first, Brian. We'll come back to you then. Just get Majid in here first.
Yeah, man, I'm just kind of picking up where where you guys left off actually. So like in the RCC, like my favorite module is definitely the one that goes over Instagram. I was just gonna say, if you don't mind, I know you said earlier in the when you were in the presentation that you might even flame someone's Instagram. I'm just saying, if you wanna flame someone's, I'll volunteer. Not a max.
Put the link to your profile in the chat.
Cool.
I actually want to do this with Majid, but I want to do it with Brian as well. Brian, I know you've looked at Tribe in the past. Will, obviously familiar with Tribe. And if we have time, maybe just from the perspective, if we could look at these profiles and say, okay, how can we position ourselves in the best possible way to land a role? How can we perceive ourselves in such a way where a business owner actually wants to speak with us, maybe even just respond to us first of all? But I think that would be an epic way to close this out. So Brian, if you're comfortable as well, if you could share your Instagram username,
There's
that would
not
be
much
amazing.
going on. I have one
I know,
post.
that's exactly why. That's exactly why we need to get stuff going on.
All right, let's go.
Majid, let's go with you first. Will, are you cool with this?
Yeah, totally.
Okay.
All right. So we'll do it how? I'm gonna hit you, Majid, here. So there's a mutual for you. And see, like guys, like this is the whole, I normally will start from the username first, but this is the whole concept of mutuals I was talking about.
And let me jump in before you there. These mutuals, I connected half of these mutuals with Will in terms of who you'll see here, which is connected, which is, it's just a circle, just trying to use Will's habits almost as leverage.
Yeah. So the point being is I am more inclined to follow Majid because we have Nico, who's a Norwegian that I actually met in Montenegro. This is a David who is he's in Ibiza right now, but is in Medellin, which is the place I live, and a guy that Cian connected me with, as well as Clayton here, who's another Medellin guy, where I'll be going. Those were ways that Cian provided me value too. And then obviously Remote Closing Club. So each one of these is just like you have on LinkedIn, you have your, like recommendations or endorsements. You can think of the mutual follower as the same thing. Like each one of these is frankly an endorsement. So then Majid, going from here, your username, generally you want to have like as simple as possible. So for me, it's like will.coomer. Cian is yours, Cian.linen, I think.
_
Okay, yeah. And so generally what I recommend there is, like I said, super simple. So I like periods. I don't think you can do hyphen. You don't want it to look like a Snapchat username or a video game tag where it's like, sexyfish3965 _ XYZ, right? And so frankly, you haven't done a bad job here. If I had to get more, I'm guessing this is your last name. I frankly have no idea how to pronounce that, so forgive me. I won't even attempt it here. But like getting even more idea would be like if you just had your first name, that would be fire. Because if you think about people who have like shorter usernames and like only one thing, what do we normally associate those with? Entrepreneurs, celebrities, that kind of thing. Those are the people who have those. So that's a good way to boost your social proof, right? In a simple way at times too. So anywhere that you could get that a little bit maybe like more simplified would be helpful, but frankly, it's good as it is right now. For your name here, if this is your last name, I would just also put that there so it's clear. So then people come on your profile and they're like, oh, what is this whole thing right? You can see, oh, okay, it's just his last name. Your profile photo is okay, maybe like a 6 out of 10. Generally, the rules that I recommend are a candid photo in general without sunglasses, because candid photos, the feature, and I'm just going to go to mine first. The whole point is to demonstrate, right? So you almost want to make it look like somebody's watching the movie of your life from afar. And that's what candid photos do, is they give it the appearance of watching. So, you can see even in these things here, and there are some times where you break that rule, but like my original profile photo, my old one, came from just a group photo, and I just zoomed in here. So something like that works awesome. Go back to yours. So that's what I would recommend there, versus this looks like perhaps it was kind of a selfie, kind of not. I'm not really sure. So like I said, can be improved, not the worst in the world. You're also like not centered, which that would be something I would improve on. It's kind of like weirdly off kilter. Sales closer, pretty good. I would say generally you want to make things symmetric. So like closer could be capitalized, or you could even just have sales in there. Like an example of another closer, or used to be closer. Let's see if he hopefully didn't change it as I gave you this example, would be Chris Sutter. Okay, so he used to have just like sales in here, but he's actually still within ownership. You can see the profile photo of the candid shot. I actually took this picture, fun fact. But you can see, okay, this is his business. He's an entrepreneur. You have the tag, so you don't have that like creator tag. You don't need it per se. And then you have United Kingdom, which is where you're based. Depending on how international you want to be, you can just tag the UK, or you could get even more specific. Like if you're in Leeds, or you're in whatever, like Suffolk, or you're in Bath, or you're in London, you could tag that. You can get a little bit more funky if you want to put in like the pin. That can be a little bit more. Generally, what I say is like you can show more dimensions. You can say like what's meaningful to you. So like mine has faith and hard work. I have my YouTube channel link, and I have my name. But then I have designer here, which actually works as a way of like a micro lead magnet, because people are like, oh, Will, what designer? And I use that as a kind of a cool fact, is like I design relationships, experience, and connection between people, right? And so that's why I have that there. But you don't have to be that abstract. So yeah, those are just minor tweaks. And then when it comes to the actual posts, let's start off stronger. This, frankly, is your best one. Your best one, I would say. It's in like, oh, he's in a cool area. Post is different. The quality could be a little bit better, for sure. Then the rules about Instagram that I always say with guys are, you don't want Facebook, Frat, or Snapchat. And so what I mean by Facebook is, this is a decent example. Same thing with more or less kind of just being a frat. Think of any photo that your mom could have taken. Like I could have easily seen my mom, or possibly your mom, being like, all right, boys, let's get together for a photo. And then especially, with the mild kind of goofiness going on here, that's what it looks like, right? The point of the controlling your perception is to elevate, and to not always make it look like something that everybody else could do, right? So the example there that's powerful is, if you are in general admission in the middle of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people at a concert, there is absolutely no value in you posting that. You are seeking to demonstrate value and give yourself a raise overall in like social caliber, or like capability, right? Perception. And so doing something like that for this concert example just makes you seem like everybody else, which is not the goal. You want to differentiate yourself. And so though this is like at a cool waterfall, there would be perhaps a little bit better examples to do. This isn't the worst thing in the world, by the way. This though here is literally like, okay, maybe you're kind of going fit. It's also from October 2019. So by the way, I would just yeet that out of here. This is an interesting comment just to highlight. So congratulations. But yeah, anything that's a super young photo, a graduation from a school or university, unless it's somewhere like Oxford or Harvard, or like that comes with a prestige and world renown, generally you can archive all those photos. So this one is just, yeah, you look super young. And like I said, this is like absolute like normal, like could be any random street in any random city. Um, yeah. This one, getting exposed to elements, I only found decent tranquility, half decent caption. Easy way, cheat code for captions is just to do super short things. I would say overall, your photo taking abilities could be improved, but I'll show you guys all a quick way to improve that. Okay, this is just like a selfie thing, kind of sharing your environment. The focus is on demonstrating it. So like this, it's like a nice sunset, but this is honestly a better story highlight than it is a post. And then, like I said, I'm going to give you guys the cheat code to absolutely easily get quality content. Any video you want to shoot in vertical, always for Instagram. So even if it's like, because you shot this on horizontal, your head is completely chopped off. Versus if this was in vertical, you know, maybe you'd have to put the phone like 5 feet back. You can buy a what's it called, a stand tripod off of Instagram. Sorry, off of Amazon, or even use a water bottle, which maybe is what you use here, a rock, and then it'll just be way better. I wouldn't recommend having the song lyrics because we can hear those. And then generally, you want to match the video, which I guess I would say this was an okay at best choice, because it's like, okay, walking on a dream, it seems like it's a pretty good sunset environment, but the whole fact of the matter is when you actually have the nice evening, the lyrics are covering what you want to show. So that's pretty much a no-go. We'll do a quick look at your stories. Okay, solo wild camping trip. First phase, the ascent. And by the way, I know like maybe it's something you can help in the future when you get your next phone, but generally it's always a giveaway if you don't have an iPhone. And iPhone quality just looks way better on Instagram. So that's just something.
This killed me, guys. When myself and Will were in Montenegro, I was taking shots with an Android and he was taking it with an iPhone, and I came home and I had to buy an iPhone. Because it really does come through in the quality. And again, that might seem like such a silly thing, like why would I invest like $1,000 in a quality phone? Because you're investing $1,000 in yourself, basically, so people can perceive you in a way more optimal manner. So if you have the cash lying around, I'd get your hands on an iPhone.
Yeah. And so then, yeah, these are like generally like you're giving people a decent example of what you're doing. I like how you're telling a story and sharing things here. I would say overall, you know, you could do a little bit better on like smoothness. If you want to expand in this area of like documenting your trips, something that I bought earlier this summer that's really good. You can either buy, can you still see me?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is a DJI Osmo. This is a little bit of an investment. I think it might have been like 600 pounds or 700 pounds. But these are really great because they have built-in stabilization. The new iPhones are also good. You can just, like, frankly, you don't need that Osmo. It's just helpful. The more you do it, like the new iPhones have built-in stabilization. So that's just the goal of like, you want to make it super pleasing to watch. So when you're like, that's not as helpful. You want to try to be smooth with it and record smooth video. And that's just something you can practice. You want to choose the whole Snapchat thing I was talking about earlier. This is a decent example where if you ever use Snapchat, like people will put like massive bars on text. The whole point of this is to demonstrate what you're doing. So I understand you're giving good explanation, but if this was in a little bit more organized, so it's like, yeah, second phase I can read, but like trying to find shelter, like this is kind of blending in with the background, not as clean. You want it to be clean and aesthetic. And you can put these like in the bottom or like the top section. And a little bit smaller. So it's not, you don't want it to be taking away from the subject, which is the area that you're doing. Like this is better. It could be a little bit smaller. And then obviously, like I said, I would shoot it in vertical. And you can change your camera to 9/16, which is the ratio of stories. Yeah, like this is like just your feet. You know, it's cut off because it's horizontal. Same thing would be better to show your whole body.
I'm just getting conscious of time here. Well, I'm not sure how you are, but if you want to finish up on Majid's and then close off on Brian's, because otherwise, if we do everyone's, we're going to be here until
yeah.
until
Sure.
the lights go out.
Let me just demonstrate this because this is a super powerful tool. and I can forward you the link as well for overall sending things. But for anyone wanting to improve on Instagram, realize like this is the absolute cheat code. Is you can find people who already are doing what you want and have good following. The way to verify if it's something that you can use, this is an inspiration bank, basically, is to verify, okay, does a person have a solid following? Are they being well received on Instagram? So for any of these, like if you click on it, this guy I think is the founder of, what's it, London called? I forget what it's called. It's called Crafted. Yeah, Crafted. So that's like an e-com brand, and guy's got 350,000 followers. And so it's like, you know, I saved this, which is in, yeah, Como. And so it's like, okay, this is a decent amount of comments. I think a lot of comments by also other popular people. And I saved this because I'm going to use that as inspiration. And so you don't have to directly copy photos, but you tweak them a little bit. And so this is just the ultimate process for whatever the areas you're interested in. So for you, you know, you can find hiking photos. Like this photo works just as well if it's just you standing there instead of you on a horse, right? You could have gotten that photo, and obviously not like it's coulda, woulda, shoulda, or you had no idea. But like in the future, if you go back, you can get a photo just like this, of just you standing there, right? And do that, you know. And so these are all, I don't know what that was, but yeah, if you're in Spain or I think this one is Ibiza, just find those accounts and follow them. But yeah, Lewis, you're right. Okay, let's go, Brian.
We go into Brian and let's close it out then, guys. Just conscious of time. So
Yeah.
just a bit of context here. I think, Brian, I've probably hounded you in the past saying let's get some Instagram photos up and stuff. Like,
Since
you can see in this first post, like he's pretty jacked. He's based in Barcelona, has a lot of friends, knows a lot of people into fitness, really good at sales, lovely guy, but doesn't come through on Instagram. And I feel as though we'd love to tell the world that. So yeah.
Yeah. So Brian, overall, like this post has a bit of Facebook syndrome. Like this is literally like, hey, I don't know if this is your brother, but he very well could be. And it's like, okay, let's send a picture to mom. And by all means, there is a time and a place for a photo like this, but I'll just go to my Instagram quickly. It is when you have all the other bases covered. So if you look, we call it a comfort photo. So it's like, oh, these are cool. This is awesome. Da, 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 da. And then you get here, it's like, oh, whoa, like this is like they're all staring more or less at the camera, like it's super wild. And granted, this is a monkey, right? So it's also nuts. But let me find other ones. Like this is another comfort photo of like just my friend and I at dinner. This is when I was in uni. Comfort photos can also be within a post. I think it's in here. No, it's not here, sorry. Maybe here.
So when you already have like 7 or 8 cool, clean photos in
Yeah.
there, it kind of gives you license to take the piss on a photo or look a bit like
Exactly,
really
because
nice.
you want people to be like, whoa, like this guy's life is a movie, but you also want them to be able to relate and connect to you. So you're like, oh, like for example, a good example of a comfort photo is like one with family, one with a dog. Oh, this guy, you know, loves his mom too. This guy, you know, has a puppy, that kind of thing. So this is a good example, a great example of a comfort photo. And frankly, because of the environment that you've still done a decent job showing, it's not the worst thing in the world, but we want to highlight those other things. This is way more of a Facebook photo than the first one. You know, a little bit cooler. This is like definitely a story, I would say, to highlight, but it's still, you're in the Pyrenees. It's awesome. This is like a Snapchat kind of a comfort thing of like goofy showing the environment. This one, honestly, even though you're looking at the camera, like I said, that, and you've heard candid as well, the candid is the way to go. This one is like, yo, I'm jacked and I'm hiking in the mountains. I would take it from a couple more, like a meter back, maybe 3 feet. Yeah, half a meter back. And just to show you don't want to like chop off your legs or anything unnecessarily. Same thing with the selfie. This is great. This is cool. And honestly, like, yeah. So this one, even like you could step back like a meter back and you would see your whole body. That would be awesome. Like a comparable for this post and one that I would have. are frankly like this one, right? So it's farther enough back. This is in the Alps. And you can see kind of just highlighting different things. Like you had similar pictures to this where you're working in. Right. And in several of these, if I didn't know this, I could have used many of those for like the cover. When you're emphasizing your IG, like the cover photo is the most important part because that's what people are going to see. But then it's the first info that's second. So, right. It's like sharing these cool elements. And it's like, once again, people are watching the movie. I'll be sure.
Do you only do carousels, or do you ever do like a single post?
No, that's what, when you're starting off, you can do singles. So it's like, I have a single here. I've just archived most of their singles. This one I think is literally like 3. So it's like, I'm in the hills by myself. Then this is a lady, and this is like a friend who also had a pretty good account at the time. But this is just a 2-piece. When you get like leveled up, that's where you can feel free to go ahead. You know, and so you can even work in like aesthetic things or things that match.
Gotcha.
This is a single post. So yeah, like you work up to carousels by all means, but bro, just posting something on your story or singles are fine, especially starting off. But once you get into the flow, it's pretty easy to just add things. And it doesn't have to be 6. Like I still do series of 3. When did I last do a series of 3? You know, now I'm doing reels and stuff. But like this was after, I don't know, XYZ number of posts, but it's literally a 3-piece.
Okay. Yeah, what else is there through my outside of the posts and like
Well, so I need to just go back here.
there's not much to look through, but like
Yeah, so that's the thing. Your profile photo is pretty good. You have Barcelona. You could throw something in about like what you care about. So if you're huge on like working out or, you know, hiking or just your work as in like a closer or something, that would be good. You have absolutely no story highlights whatsoever. So that would be a good thing to work out. To give, once again, give people more dimension on who is Brian, right? As in like, and like I said, you could start off with like aesthetics or like, this is my daily life, like have a daily life highlight. If fitness is huge to you, you can have like a fitness highlight. Then you could have like beliefs, values, that kind of thing, or just things you agree with, like, and then obviously improving posts. So what I was talking about earlier, you can go back to when I first started posting. You can see as long as it loads, hello. And you can see what my original, and for anybody interested in Instagram, you all can go through this. This is 140 weeks ago, so a couple years ago. And you can see like this is what I was posting. I was sharing other people's things that I agreed with, cool videos, thoughts, and then I would add. So it's like, oh, this is an awesome photo. Let me add my thoughts to it or what it makes me feel. Like this video, I love this video. And it's like, oh, this quote fits perfect with it. And that's just my style, right? And I literally got into like writing out Twitter threads on Instagram. That also works fine. All right, this is me sharing. I haven't posted this in a long time, but this is when, after I showed you guys I got to that like 110 kgs, this is like part of the process, and the form is pretty, I think, horrible here. I don't know what this is in kgs, but I think it's a decent amount. Right? And it's like, okay, my first muscle up, yeah, I did CrossFit. That kind of stuff, right? Oh yeah, so this is like a fitness transformation video. Yeah, and then this is just stories that I like cool thing I like, not just educational. Yeah, and then one thing for me is I like cool meal experiences, nice aesthetics. So I have even more. These are more business, but like this is like a whole thing dedicated to like cool aesthetics because like I like the art side of that. So if you like that, you're in Barcelona, dude. It's an incredibly beautiful city. There's so many different restaurants and cool areas that you could highlight. And the way to get better at it, frankly, is what I showed you all earlier. Is just to make your Instagram feed be that what you want your life to be. So like if you scroll mine, yeah, you'll see. Let's see. Hopefully you won't see like so yeah, like these are all okay. This is weird. That's highlighting Diddy. I don't know what this is doing. Fucking Diddy. So you'll see memes, but you'll see more of yeah. Like so, these are real examples of like you have this in a real bank. This is a good post from a friend, right? So these are like okay, if you're literally in Barcelona, you could copy this exact photo. right? And it's a great example. You can copy this whole post probably.
I would just stack up what's in your saved selection by clicking save on
Yeah.
each photo that kind of inspires
Yeah.
you, Brian, and literally create a vision board. Maybe some certain sites in Barcelona, Spain, build it out. Um, like Will, if you could maybe just mention briefly and put a halt to it then in terms of like say someone like Brian there, he's in Barcelona, what would be like just an easy way to build out that profile? Like, could you say like, okay, you have one post in a restaurant, another one playing paddle, one with friends, or maybe one like, I don't know, on a surfboard on the beach. Like, are there
Yeah.
any staples you would highlight to like just get it up and running kind of
So
ASAP?
no matter whether you're in Barcelona or, the absolute butt crack of Spain, shall we say, I always tell guys you can get at least you can get at least one post a week from 3 different areas within an hour. Like within, an hour's travel, you're in Barcelona, so you have way more than that. And so I say there's cool restaurant, aesthetic restaurant you can go to somewhere in nature. So that could be the beach, that could be maybe you take a bus ride to somewhere else, to like Andalusia or something, Andalusia, or fitness, hobby, interest, something along those lines, right? And so you can just go through those different areas and do it. So it's like, and even search like people in Barcelona. You've lived in Barcelona long enough, so you know what all is there. So it's like, okay, this is one. This is maybe in like France, but these are all good examples of like, okay, here. And once you have a couple posts, you can just do like cool aesthetics. Like these are all good examples. And so the first thing would be to find accounts and just do it. This might be, oh, this is Bali, but this guy Baz he's a Dutch guy. He's in Barcelona a lot.
I know, man.
And so just find that and just go build it out from there.
Awesome, man. Cool.
Restaurant, fitness, personal interest, aesthetics, like cool city aesthetics, like bro, you literally have, La Sagrada Familia, that kind of stuff. I even have a video example of like a really cool video that I imitated at the pyramids that I haven't posted yet. I don't know how to find it.
But like guys, look how detailed this is. Like there's albums for like every aspect of every life that you can
Yeah, so
possibly
even
think of.
so for like planning trips out, I do this too. Like if you're going to go to, for example, if we've said Montenegro a couple of times, or like this is Egypt. I will research and find like cool photos that are like I know I could get in Egypt, and so I did that, right? And so I prepared on the front end, so when I'm there, I don't have to spend extra time.
That horse is literally the cover of the reel you posted. I think that reel is in Egypt, is it?
That was in Morocco, but
Morocco,
I mean,
sorry.
like
But
I
like,
might, yeah. Um, so, oh, this is the cool. Did I just go into this? No, I might have 2 different ones. Oh, here. This is what I was talking about. Brian, like this is just, I thought it was pretty fire. I mean, you don't have to look as like posed and dorky as they do, but it's just cool showing them
Yeah, it's dope.
the cathedral, right? So like this is literally a post in Barcelona. And once again, like do you. Like if something isn't meaningful to you, don't do it. Like if you don't smoke, there's no need to smoke in a video. Like do what's cool with you. So yeah, I did this. We did like this with the guys that attended the trip to Egypt that I just ran in front of the pyramid, which is pretty fire. But yeah, and so like Cian was pointing out, I have a girlfriend and literally I've made like a bank for her too because I'm gonna get some decent photos. There's other stuff in here too, but it's like, oh, okay, like this is a photo that we could get, right? That kind of thing. So you can have it for every area of your life. If you're not using this, by the way, it's pretty cool. Shared stories. I mean,
oh, well, I think let's wrap it up there. You've given us too much time, and I know you could talk about this sort of shit all day long. And
no worries,
there's a lot of stuff there, but thank you. Means a lot. As I say, guys, Will was basically the first person I ever reached out to, and one of the most genuine, well connected, and guys I'm lucky to know in this space. But Will, where can people find you if they want to connect? Obviously, Instagram. He might follow you back unless you look clean. Warning, don't be offended. It's just how it works. But where
Yeah.
can people find you?
Yeah, generally Instagram is going to be the best area. But let me just grab the YouTube, and I will.
You say you're based in Medellin, is it?
Yeah, I spend time there. I've lived there in the last like year for a bit more than since February 2023 when I went for the first time. I spent about a little bit more than 6 months there. I'll go there next October, November.
I'm going to be there for a month in November. So if you're about, we can link up.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And let me just do here, and then yeah. So I just put this in here.
Okay,
And so that's
sweet.
YouTube. And obviously I can send that to you too, so you can put it. But the YouTube is like if you're interested in Instagram, has a long form video there. But if you're looking to like actually hear from me or on the daily and stuff like that, definitely hit me on Instagram.